Hi everyone, welcome back to the 21 and Sensory podcast with me, Emily. On today's show, I have special guest Cath, and Cath is a graduate from the University of York and the University of Oxford. Their background is in student voice with 5 years of experience across 2 universities. Cath is also the host and founder of the HE Enabled podcast. HE Enabled is a show dedicated to sharing the experiences of disabled, neurodivergent, and those with long-term health conditions in UK higher education. So, Cath, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, hi Emily. Thanks so much for having me on and for that little introduction. I think that's bang on the money.
Oh, good. Okay, good. Always, it's so hard to sum up someone in a introduction, and I imagine you get that yourself, seeing as you also have a podcast. Yeah, it can be hard to sum up someone in 30 seconds, but I'm glad that was okay. Thank you so much for coming on. Maybe we can do a little kind of introduction to you, and maybe you can provide a bit more background on your life right now.
Sure, you've got it pretty much bang on. So I host the HE Enable podcast at the moment. I graduated from Oxford in July 2025 after what I'm sure we'll get into a very interesting experience getting a complaint through and running a reset.
Mm-hmm.
And this kind of got founded off of the back of just being completely burnt out by academia, employment, and just wanting to, I guess, give people a voice and a platform. And yeah, I'm sure we'll run into the reasons a little bit more why I've done that. But yeah, it's kind of where it's come from right now.
Okay, cool. And do you want to maybe just discuss any sort of diagnoses that you have now, and then maybe we'll kind of start at the beginning, I guess, of the process of you finding out things about yourself?
Yeah, so I have a clinical ADHD diagnosis. That was the big one. It was a late diagnosis, maybe not relative to my life, but it was relative to anyone's grand old age. But I was diagnosed at 21 during my final year of uni. Since then, it's become very clear that I have very strong autistic traits. I probably meet a clinical diagnosis. I am what I called rigorously peer-reviewed. I've had people with PhDs in psychology look at me in the face and go, yeah, you're really, really autistic. We just can't rubber stamp your diagnosis. I'm not the person who can do that. I'm like, this is the closest I've got right now. We're going to take it. Shout out to Adam. What a guy. Great mentor. But also, I've got a couple physical things as well. I got COVID twice. I don't know if that has anything to do with anything. But I deal with a lot of fatigue and energy management and general mental health stuff as well. And yeah, sometimes I have a stomach that doesn't cooperate, which is why I had to repeat a year of school before university, independent of my neurodivergence.
Right. Okay. And how did you kind of navigate sort of GCSEs and secondary school with kind of, I guess, a lot of undiagnosed things going on in the background?
I mean, I made it through. I was never in, I'm alive.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, uni's all right. But no, in a way, I didn't realize. Partly, you have all the stereotypes growing up of what ADHD is. And it's, if you're female presenting, it's not necessarily, you're not going to relate to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, I saw myself as weird. I didn't see myself as neurodivergent. But in terms of the actual academics, I didn't really notice as much because I benefit a lot from structure. And that structure was built in. Sure, I got probably some standard undiagnosed ADHD things. I get really frustrated when I couldn't study for long. I try and massively overcompensate with planning, and then I'd really struggle to follow through. And I didn't realize what that was manifesting, or what symptoms I was manifesting until much later. But I as I mentioned with A-levels, I had to repeat a year of sixth form. I got really ill in my first year. My attendance tanked. But I pulled it back. I bagged a couple A's. I had quite the experience of applying to university, where most of the schooling itself was fine, but I had a head of sixth who didn't send my extenuating circumstances when I was applying to Cambridge, which when you've got dodgy GCSEs and repeated a year of sixth form is really important.
Yeah,
and I ended up
massively.
having to, I hadn't got anything above an A at GCSE.
Okay.
But like I knew I could do top uni stuff. So, but you need the contextualization in order to help that make sense. And, you know, that extenuating circumstances form never got sent. I had to send the college I was interviewing at my essentially entire medical history from the past year.
Right. That's a lot to reveal about yourself. Like, hi, I'd like to apply, but also here's all this as well. Like, that feels like a lot to like divulge, I think.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, I think it worked. I didn't get in, but I was interviewed. I was only rejected at the pooling stage, which I'm sure any rejects or Oxford students will know what that means. But it was very close, but it was very just like exhausting and kind of burnt me out. But in terms of the academics, you know, despite everything, I did make it through fine, and like moved on to York.
And how did you find the kind of whole process of applying to uni and things? Because are there like tests to do for like Oxford and things? Like I feel like there's like tests and stuff sometimes that you have to do to get in initially. Is that right, or am I making that up?
No, you're right. So for most courses, it depends. I think Oxford's changing it this year, so they're running different tests. Some courses won't have tests anymore. Okay. They're doing some kind of standardization. But when I was applying to Cambridge, it was for English literature. So I had to sit the ELAT, which was done at school, another exam, interview, a couple of interviews when they were in person, which was great fun. Love the in-person interview, to be honest. But yeah, like coming from a state school background, I didn't get as much prep as I probably should have.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I remember some people did like practice assessments and practice interviews beforehand, and did sat like old tests and things. Like, geez, that's a lot to be like juggling, as well as, you know, trying not to burn out.
Yeah, but it's exhilarating. Like, you know, there's a very clear goal that you're working towards. And if you get it right, getting in can be, you know, the reward is incredibly sweet. I didn't get in, and I also didn't probably get as much prep. Same head of sixth, just I didn't get a mock interview until the day before, or the day I was going to Cambridge.
Okay. So
I was actually rocking up to my English teachers' classrooms and being like, hey guys, help. And they were wonderful. But there wasn't as much formal support as there probably should have been.
And this kind of feels like a kind of running theme throughout your journey, is that people at different levels fail to tell people at the next level about, you know, your circumstances, or, you know, the support you might need. So I've heard you on your very own podcast talk about how kind of you were failed multiple times in terms of kind of like support plans being lost and things like that. Can you kind of explain a bit of background to that as well?
I'll do my best to do the TLDR.
Yeah.
So there was everything that happened in school, kind of the first big institutional failure. You obviously get burned out when you put in that much effort, and there's not much, like if you get rejected, there's not much you can get out of it. And especially because I had to put in so much extra effort, like I got rejected from Cambridge. I ended up going to York. I was a fresher in 2019.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What a year.
What a year. So 2019-2020 academic year. And that went downhill fast. But I had a support plan that was very mild just for my stomach. That was literally like, you know, I get an ensuite at shared bathroom prices, and I can go ahead and take some extra time if I need it.
Okay. Yep.
Really, like, quite loose, quite standard, fine, got what I needed. They gave me a lot of extra tech I did not need and never used, and oh well.
Is that like the DSA sort of?
Yeah, they sent me
Yeah.
something with a battery that was about to explode, but we sent it back and just didn't ask for anything anything else
Okay.
to be sent out. But yeah, so COVID hit. I realized I've been struggling kind of my whole life, but it's coming to a head, which I know wasn't uncommon. Got my ADHD diagnosis after 6 months, to be fair, in 2021, which was in the first couple months of my final year of uni. While that was happening, I obviously got my support plan updated and they said that I should have more contact with my tutors.
Mm-hmm.
Two things happened from here. First of all, my dissertation supervisor didn't speak to me for 9 months because I was a student scholar researcher and should, quote, know what I'm doing. I did not. I hadn't done any English research before, and he should have been checking in. And second of all, I ended up being a combined honours student in literature and linguistics at York.
Right.
And English was my home department. It turns out that linguistics had never received my support plan.
Okay.
So that was all quite bad. And I was like, you know what? I had a breakdown. Wasn't pleasant, but I got into Oxford by the skin of my teeth. And for the most part, Oxford was actually really good, especially because I knew that at this point, systems are just going to fail, whether they intend to or not, was the mentality I had going in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was very much, I was there to my supervisor, bless her heart. I was like, hey, my support plan just went missing at my last institution. I need you to 1000% make sure that my support plan is going through here and it's being distributed properly.
Yeah.
I thought, okay, I've left it with my supervisor. She's quite high up in the department. I'll let it sit. It should be fine. I got my exam arrangements. And for the most part, I didn't need anything because I could speak to my tutors. And I was very open with what was happening. I had some tutors that weren't so great, ended up becoming a complaint later, but that's a whole other thing. I later found out, was it 2 years later, or a year and a half later, 2 weeks before the end of my final term, that my support plan had never been distributed to my supervisor or my tutors for 2 years.
So had it just sat with the previous university, or was it just sat? I guess you don't even know where it got dropped.
No,
kind of thing.
Oxford made a new one. I know exactly where it got dropped. Because they had some pretty interesting admin when I first joined, which would have been when my support plan was distributed.
Right.
The department as it is now is actually very strong in that regard, and they're doing much better. But when I joined Oxford, it was very much like I was emailing once a day trying to get my student card for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And it was a fight with my faculty to get stuff. We had people arriving with no student cards. But that was an administrator who was very, very tricky, and I don't think the department was struggling with that kind of admin too. I had mates who were struggling to get visas because the admin wasn't getting stuff out, but she ended up leaving right as I joined.
Okay.
But it's the most obvious break in the chain.
Yeah.
Is that particular administrator probably just saw it and didn't forward it to the right place.
Okay.
That's my most likely theory.
Mm-hmm. That's mad. That for it to just not. It seems so simple to pass it on and make sure someone's well supported, but that's mad that you can kind of almost see where the chain broke sort of thing. And if you weren't as kind of maybe confident in advocating for yourself, how are other students coping? The fact that you were on it and emailing daily, which is mad, and you shouldn't have to do that. But if you're not that confident, advocating for yourself at university seems like a very scary thing, especially the University of Oxford.
I mean, to be fair, this is kind of where my autistic traits help me quite a bit, is that I don't necessarily see the hierarchy in a lot of things.
So you're right there.
Yeah, I don't care if you're the University of Oxford.
Yeah.
First of all, I'm one of your students now. Second of all, I know my legal rights. Like,
Yeah.
I was raised by a lawyer, which helps. I know my legal rights. What are you doing? Like, you know, some of this wasn't even accessibility. It was just bad practice.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, you have so many opportunities right now.
Mm.
Like, I remember calling incessantly. She actually picked up, and I freaked out so much I had to hang up the phone because I was not expecting it. Now, but like, very, very sweet. The reason I realized they messed up is actually my student voice. I was in a meeting. They were discussing how plans should be distributed. And I looked at my e-vision. I was like, hang on, mine doesn't look right. I went to the now very lovely admin. Hey guys, what's going on? And later that evening, I got an e-vision notification being like, your support plan sharing has been like changed. I'm like, oh my God.
Wow. That's a coincidence, not?
I was not shocked. I was more
Wow.
just, it was just bemusing at that point that it happened so much.
Mm-hmm. That's wild. I mean, how, because I know kind of your dream was to go to Oxford University. How?
Oxbridge, yeah.
Oh, Oxbridge. Sorry. Oxbridge, which is Oxford and Cambridge for anyone that doesn't know. I feel like in the UK
I wanted my posh phase.
Yeah. I feel in the UK, like, everyone talks about, like, oh, you're fine to Oxbridge. But you did fulfill that dream. But did that dream match up with what you had expected, kind of thing, with all of this stuff going on? Like was the course good? Like, what were the positives, kind of?
I like my department too much to say some of these things. They very small department doing the best of what they had. Sometimes, there could have been better scheduling, but they were dependent on a lot of other faculties. Mm-hmm. And, they weren't necessarily afforded what you'd expect of an Oxford department. Our resources in terms of library was exceptional because we were sharing with the philologist, but we wouldn't get our timetables till like the week before. But before I move on to the happy stuff, I have the questions that you sent, and I have a feeling that you don't know the second part of that Oxford story.
Ooh, okay. Fill me in. This is what podcasts are for.
So the first episode, when I left it, I was going through an academic complaint about, hey, I'm a really close miss. You lost my support plan. Yeah. I had some issues with another tutor as well. Like, can we work something out here, or at least get some reimbursement? Mm-hmm. My faculty said, we can offer you some money, but, I wanted to get a second opinion from the proctors, which is the more impartial body up the university. My head department, lovely woman, head department at the time, got back within 30 days. She was great. The proctors took 114 days and 2 caseworkers to give me a complaint outcome, telling me I had to resit when, and I had this all in paper, so they can't come for me. So I get everything in writing. But they basically were saying, like, we're really sorry it took so long. They gave me some reimbursement for it, but the thing is that I didn't have time to challenge their complaint anymore, even if I wanted to. I didn't even read it because I knew that if I ended up fighting again, there's a chance I would have missed the submission window for my resit, which they told me I had to do.
Did you want to do resit? Like, why?
Oh yeah,
you did. Okay.
It was my only way to get my master's.
Right. Okay.
So, but that ended up being like this long, protracted battle that was, to be honest, more burn me up more than the support plan fiasco, because I kind of guessed that might be happening already.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's mad. So what happened in the end? Like, how did you manage to like come to an agreement, sort of thing?
Yeah, I got some money for it. It wasn't much. It was not really enough to cover the missed wages and the days I'd taken off of work to like receive the complaint, because 3 times I thought I was going to receive it and taken the day off work.
Right.
And then ended up receiving it at work anyway. But it was all. I resat. I passed by the skin of my teeth. I think it was a bit of a dodgy concept I was given to begin with, and then I just graduated in July and got it over with.
Well done for resetting, which is
Thank you.
stressful enough, let alone for like passing. And yeah, I get your feeling of like I just want to get it done and be you can't not rid of this, but like rid of it as a, you know, something that might, you know, continue to burn you out. And also like the fact that they just keep dragging on the process. I don't understand how universities work.
No, it would have been fine if they told me. If they'd been like,
Yeah.
hey, like, it's going to take longer, but it would be like the day after I was supposed to hear back. Or I called them at one point when I was waiting for the tube, because I'd moved to London by this point, and they were like, I was like, hey, just to check, like, my outcome's coming out today, right? And they're like, oh, you know, really lovely woman, like, let me just check that for you. She's like, oh no, I don't see you on the list today. Like, oh my goodness.
Good.
And then they didn't give me
how long is the
6-week
list?
deferral. I don't know. They didn't give me a 6-week deferral until 4 p.m., which was then deferred by another 2 weeks because of the Christmas break.
Oh my God.
It was a lot.
That sounds so stressful and just unnecessary to put you through. Like, what? I don't understand why it's not a process that, you know, all it would take is their communication to be better and to have checked in regularly. But I guess you could say that even about like your supervisor as well. Like, people weren't checking in with you. You were constantly checking in with them to keep them like accountable, which seems mad.
And at some point, especially in my bachelor's, like in Oxford, I was like, I had a full breakdown. I was like, okay, I'm not here to pass, I'm here to get out alive.
Mm-hmm.
But in York, I really, really struggled because I was trying to meet these entry requirements, my master's, and I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so even though I had like admission of fault from my department in writing, you know, I just didn't have the energy to pursue a complaint. And it was exhausting. So I probably should have, but I was exhausted from getting everything done.
I mean, I'm not surprised. Like that's a lot, like mentally to take on, especially like when you're also juggling, because you were living on campus as well. And I remember you mentioning something about like a heat pump in your room driving you nuts. Like
that was the first year of my master's.
That was the first year of your master's. Okay. Like how did you manage like also like being on campus as well as trying to advocate for yourself and turning up for, you know, lectures and things like that? Like you had a lot going on.
Yeah, so York was interesting in another way. In the not only did I get COVID in my final term, I also was doing titration in my final 2 terms of uni. So I was basically zonked out on ADHD medication and barely able to sleep while also doing all of this. But yeah, in Oxford, brand new building in my college. I went to Jesus. Before I start, love the building, worked in that building, it's great. But they have heat pumps because they're trying to make it greener.
Right.
In terms of where the heating source from, and you know, very respectable goals. Don't fault them for the goals. As with any new building, sometimes there's teething problems, and I doubt this has been fixed, but I was essentially just going through sensory hell for 9 months because there was a ground source heat pump. I didn't know what it was. I just knew there was buzzing in my room constantly. And when I reported a fault, they couldn't find anything because it would only happen some of the time.
Right.
And I literally would sit there. Earplugs wouldn't get rid of it. It was happening at night. It was loud. It was happening during the day. I was in, you know, fresh sensory hell for 9 months, essentially. Just trying to get out alive. I was so overwhelmed. I was like bedbound some days. So I was just like exhausted and depressed from trying to process this noise all of the time with no respite. And it wasn't until I moved out of college accommodation in my second year. Funnily enough, because they said that despite my first year room being an ensuite, they couldn't offer me one in college. Even though I needed one. So I had to, I bunked up with the university accommodation service instead. And that was other than the heating being jammed on, which they fixed very quickly, and not ideal for August, but we made it work.
Wow.
But they were. I didn't realize until I think the week before I moved out of college, where I heard silence and knew peace for the first time in months.
Mm-hmm.
What was actually happening, because they'd had to turn off the ground source heat pumps for construction in a retail unit downstairs.
Oh, okay. So you experienced actual silence for once.
I was like, oh my goodness, this is new.
Wow.
And it was amazing. Yeah, but it was, I feel like it cost me a lot of experiences, a lot of my energy as well. And I really wish that I'd not had that in my first year. I think it would have been a much different experience for me, especially because I'd just been recovering from burnout. It wasn't what I needed to be immersed into right away.
Yeah. And also just, the strain of, burnout, but also, at the end of the day, if you're coming back to your room, the last thing you want to have to deal with is another sensory thing. If anything, you need to go to your room and decompress after a day at uni and not be kept on edge by something sensory related. That sounds wild. I don't know how you manage that for so long.
Not well.
Yeah. Not well is the answer. So having discussed many of the negatives, were there any positives to your time in higher education at all?
Yeah, sorry, I derailed your last question, didn't I?
No,
yeah, I think it's a lot of it was actually really good. In York, I was really active in Student Voice, got to do some sport, did a little bit of coaching for a bit, met my partner. I was a Laidlaw Scholar at York, which is an incredible opportunity and scholarship. And out of COVID, I probably... I had obviously personal stuff happen with family, as a lot of people did, but in terms of my own experience, probably one of the best outcomes I could have had out of COVID. It was really, really good. In Oxford, again, I really enjoyed it. Especially my second year, when I had the right sensory environment for me, and I could actually go home to silence and rest. I ended up doing mentally very well and just got better at taking breaks and self-compassion and all of that good stuff. And academically, I knew, because of where I was at, that I wasn't going to be performing. I was never aiming for a merit or a first or a distinction. And I just, I took that pressure off myself, and it ended up being just a really nice time. I think people thought I kept myself busier than I did. But keeping myself accountable to see people and run brunches and whatever was a really good way to get me out, and I could structure my day around getting out and being able to do stuff. And it was quite healthy.
That's good. It sounded like you found a good kind of balance after a while. And also, I think I read that you were part of did you run the Tea Society at one point or something?
Secretary,
right? Okay, that's still pretty high up in Tea Society. Speak. That sounds really cool. Did you try different teas? What does a Tea Society involve?
It depends on the uni. Some unis is we're just going to drink builder's tea and chat.
Oh.
And it's more of a social event. We didn't do that. We had a really good range of tea, actually. So I was on the committee with, shout out to Jasmine, Louie and Rob, who I was on the committee with for most of my time. And we just got a bunch of teas from different places. We'd set up the big urns each week. It originally started in my first year when I was completely wiped, and I was I'm not doing any societies. I can't just do my academics. But I also was really struggling for money, and they were this is £1 a session, come on down. And 2 weeks later I was secretary, which is great because it meant I didn't have to pay for another session. But yeah, it's a bunch of different themes of tea and biscuits, and I think it's still going strong, to be fair. Excellent. And different themes every week. Sometimes we get sponsors. It used to be on every Sunday. It's a really chill time.
Oh, that sounds like such a nice chill society as well, in terms of I feel some university societies, they take up so much of your time, especially having seen the sports side of societies,
Yeah.
I don't know how people actually like study and live whilst being part of them. So the tea one sounds nice and kind of sociable at the same time.
Yeah, I had a mate who was so for the Oxford and Cambridge boat race that happens every year, one of my friends was a blues rower who was on the reserve boat for the women's. And, you know, but hey, how you doing? She's like, I have 1 day off a week, morning and evening training. And I'm just like, don't envy you, mate. Like the sports stuff can get so
Wow.
intensive. Yeah. Blues athletes train hard.
Yeah. It just like becomes their whole life, doesn't it? I'm like, how are you actually the thing that you actually applied to study? what about that? But
Yeah.
wow, I mean,
They have the days for that, and
yeah, exactly. Like
everything else is training.
oh, that's wild. Yeah, I don't know that I could do that. And also, I kind of feel like when it's a society like that, it might become less fun and more competitive. Whereas tea drinking, and I was going to ask if there were biscuits, and you answered my question without me even asking it. So the fact that there's
let's have biscuits.
yeah, of course. I was like, surely these are included. But I love how they like instantly recruited you.
To be fair, they needed people. They're like, you're gonna be here next year, right? I was like, yeah. Come on.
They found you. Excellent.
Yeah.
So how would you say that obviously you've got your podcast that you run, but I'd be really interested to know kind of how you got into that side of things, like after uni in terms of like DEI and disability advocacy. And I talked about your work with like the student voice. So I'm kind of wondering if it sort of stemmed from that and then you've kind of taken that and run with it with a podcast.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it came from student voice.
Okay.
I'd always like had a strong sense of justice in terms of DEI, especially because even if I didn't class myself as disabled, I'd always like been the weird kid. I had to repeat a year of school.
Mhm.
Like, so I always knew that, you know, it's a group I want to advocate for is in the disabled community. And I did a little bit of research before my podcast. So let's get this right. The second summer of my Laidlaw scholarship, couldn't travel because of COVID, but I ended up writing a paper with York Access and Outreach about how evaluating the experiences of people who saw themselves as disabled or having long-term health conditions in their access to university as undergraduates the first time, and how they were offered support and what that access was like in that regard. And it was good fun. Made some resources out of it. And I had an idea that maybe if I was going to do social enterprise stuff, I'd want to work in some kind of disability advocacy.
Right.
But also, would it pay my bills? That's a different question.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I ended up it was kind of, I mainly integrated a lot of disability activism into my student voice. In Oxford, I had to fight with the faculty that owned the building that my department was in because we didn't have tables in our lecture theatre.
Okay.
Yeah. And you're having to fight them being like, yeah, sorry, one of my mates has a spinal issue, we kind of need these legally. And then they're going, but they're not aesthetic, like having chairs with fold over tables. It's like, oh my God. Like,
right. So wait, are you just meant to like take notes on your lap or what's
yes, that's what was happening.
Oh, brilliant. Okay.
but all of my intro modules I essentially took, I managed to nick a table because I was recording my lectures, but the vast majority of people were taking notes on their lap and getting like back problems. That got fixed. They did actually order those tables in the end. But a lot of what I did like advocacy wise was integrated in my student voice. But the moment that everything kicked off, especially with my masters, and I'd found out that I failed, and it was like, I kind of guessed it was going to be a whole furore. I was very much in the camp of, okay, one thing I've realized is that there is no centralized platform here for for people to tell their stories, essentially, because I've fallen through the cracks, 3 times at this point, It's 2 unis and a school. I knew some people that things were also happening to, or having a hard time. I was like, there needs to be an opportunity here for people to tell their stories, especially independently of an institution, because sometimes they'll be like, here are our disabled students, and you'll be like, this place is great because they're paying me to say this.
Yeah.
And that wasn't what I wanted to do. I wanted to have it where, obviously, if you're going to say anything, just like, please keep to the facts, have it in writing. But, I also want to give you a platform to say what's happened without fear of anyone either lashing back and going, we can't air this, and cutting it, or, worse. And I think it's important to have those platforms for people.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, it's really interesting, just like the little things you mentioned, like having a table and things like that. Like it's so simple, some of these kind of things and accommodations and stuff, but also giving people a platform to talk about their own sort of lived experiences and their own time in higher education it's really fascinating to hear kind of how universities are run, and kind of how good is their like kind of DEI teams and things. Do they even have that sort of team? Because I feel like at my kind of uni it was a bit of a struggle to kind of engage with the right services, and it sounds like you might hear that quite a lot on your podcast.
Yeah, well, we will all find out about your experience when you come on my show, because we're recording that in an hour's time. Yeah, I'm excited to find out too.
You must hear a lot of different people's kind of experiences with like higher education institutions, and like whether or not they can access the right support, or if they even have like the right teams sometimes. Like, how do you hear that a lot within your own kind of podcast and work?
Before I say anything, I want to give every single disability team in the UK in higher education just a big hug. There is, before I go, they need to do this. Like, there's not enough funding. They're understaffed. They're stretched very thin.
Yeah.
But obviously, no matter how well-meaning you are, if you're under those circumstances, things are still going to happen. And that's one of the things that I think is most frustrating when things go wrong, is that there's never any malice, you just fall through the cracks.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Normally not any malice, yeah.
Yeah, and it's, it might be a team of people that, might not have the best support themselves to do these things and to help students. So, yeah, exactly. I definitely agree that they're working against things a lot of the time.
Yeah, but in terms of guests, some of them have had their DSA disappear for months, their application. It's obviously separate from universities, but still. I've had people who... I'm trying to think of the best examples. I interviewed someone who just basically tried to advocate for their needs in architecture schools for Sarah's episode.
Okay.
And she did her best to like advocate for her needs, and then they were like, okay, maybe we'll take this on board, maybe not. And like, it was very like,
right,
they probably won't. And then they got, in that architecture school, they ended up getting a fellow for EDI, and they were like taking everything, or like, I wasn't even that. I think they were just a normal like academic who happened to be disabled themselves and did some EDI specialization.
Okay.
And suddenly everything changed. So
funny that. Okay.
It's sometimes it's institutional, sometimes it's just having things go missing without realizing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can either be internal ableism, where you like think, I'm not disabled enough, or does this apply for me? I've interviewed international students who are like, I didn't know I fit under the definition of disability in the UK. Right. If not, I would have asked for support like years ago.
Okay, that's interesting, isn't it?
That was Louisa, deeply interesting person.
Okay, I will make sure to link these episodes, and obviously your podcast as a whole in the show notes as well. But that's mad to think, of course, like different countries have different kind of ways they describe disability, don't they?
Yeah.
And
Cool.
to not know that as an international student, I think kind of reflects the university a bit, in that they're not kind of like checking as you apply sort of thing. But I guess it can be hard to catch everyone. I don't know.
It's different to that. So it was very much university, I think, asked in the application form.
Okay.
But it was very like, what would happen would be that by your definition and what you believe is disability, you don't meet that threshold yourself. You have struggles, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But as per what you don't meet that threshold.
Right.
But you don't know the definition of the law. You're not necessarily gonna know, if you're moving to a new country, how different the definition is going to be. And then it's only when you've been having a really, really hard time and years later, it actually turns out that you could have been getting support this whole time if someone had told you.
Yeah. God, how frustrating to know that, like, retrospectively, that you could have been helped out more. I think also, unless you kind of maybe know someone who's supported through like the disability service in university, you might not even know it exists or where it's based. Like, half the time it's not massively well signposted, I find, in universities. I know each university to their own, but it wasn't until like, I don't know, further on in my university course that I found out more about services and more about like, counselling and stuff. It's like, well, this exists. But I guess they're just not shouting about it. I don't know. I guess it's a lot of things.
They might not have the capacity to shout about it, to be fair.
That too. And funding, as always. Always funding.
Always funding.
Yeah, but okay, that's really interesting. And I guess kind of quite a big question. But how do you think that higher education institutions could like better support those with disabilities, neurodiversities, long-term health conditions, that sort of thing? Like, do you think it's a simple fix, or do you think that there's a lot that needs to be done across a lot of different kind of levels?
There's a couple things.
There's
a few. So for a good chunk of my interviews, I try to ask my guests, if I have the time and space, how do you think you would improve higher education? And because I've done so many of these episodes, it informs my own opinion too. And the two things that came up overwhelmingly are, we need more funding for disability services, and we need supervisor training. We need staff training for how people's brains work and might be different, and get infrastructure in place there. And
which aren't, massive asks, are they? Both of those things, I don't feel.
It depends. So from my long time in Student Voice, I've had the pleasure of sitting on some quite high up university committees, especially at York. And so I know I can play quite a fierce game of devil's advocate. not that I disagree, but like, I can see, we got to pay for the funding, we got to formulate the training, we have to bring someone in. We're in a funding crisis right now. We've cut a bunch of stuff. Can we afford that? So I think part of it has to be just subtle institutional change.
Yeah.
Not necessarily paid. But I think universities could do more in general, just using inclusive design.
Oh yeah, massively. I mean, even down to the kind of environment at universities. Just
absolutely,
like things like on campus and having just somewhere like quiet as well to study, because I find like things like libraries are not always the quietest places at a university. But yeah, I think it's so much about the environment that you learn in, as well as the support you have in that environment as well. It's like one one whole thing, I guess.
I will say, in terms of York being on one campus, it had that library down to a T, because one section was the chatty group worky one, off to the left wing.
Mhm.
The middle building was your like normal, maybe you have a quiet conversation, but you like, for the most part, you're working. And then there was the section with the archives and most of the postgrads lived. And that was like dead silent. If you breathe, you're going to be like, shot behind the computers. Don't talk, don't breathe. Like, shh. So that was like, but I appreciate not every university has that. And,
Yeah, I like that.
Oxford was similar as well, but that's because everyone's panicking and needs to be working in silence. So yeah, it's such easy things. And I think that when you think of making university more inclusive, everyone thinks about the highest hanging fruit.
Yeah,
of
that's true.
Everything we can do, and that is necessary. Still do that. That is important. But also, could you put alternative briefs in your module design? If that takes up too much time, is there something else you could do to make things easier? Like, are there small adjustments? Is there change that we can make potentially to some technology so that support plans are more readable? Can we check our fail safes? And even that, just including like the concept of disability in designs for modules and buildings from the start. Even if you can't adapt things now, I think a lot of people, as long as they can access it at some level, will understand. But you also need to think about going forward. What can you do? Do what you can now. Try and get those high hanging fruit. If it's out of reach, just do everything you can to just integrate good inclusive design into what you're doing in the future. With the caveat that, to be fair, one of my biggest gripes is, hey, this is an accessibility issue for me. Oh, but it won't be an accessibility issue for next year's cohort.
Right.
It has happened more than once. And it's like, well, that's great for them. Can you record my lectures, please? So it was genuinely in Oxford, the lecture room I was in had like really gammy lecture capture. So half my lectures weren't recorded. And I had to record them myself. So which kind of defeats the point. It was interesting. But that was but because my faculty's now moved building, that was a real conversation I had, and I hate it. I hate when institutions are like, it'll be fine for next year's cohort. I'm like, cool.
Happy for them.
Great for them.
Yeah.
Are you going to do anything else now? And it's like, nah.
How do they know that? That's just like sweeping generalization to be like, oh, but next year will be all right. Like, well, no, next year it won't be your problem anymore. Is essentially it, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, this one they were moving building and had a pretty like solid timestamp as to when that was happening.
Okay.
Like there'd been people who used wheelchairs who couldn't access their own department for the entire length of their doctorate because there was no lift access. That's now been fixed. And that was very like literally there was nothing they could do because the building was listed and not owned by our faculty.
Right.
That was one where they did have to wait, but like, I also don't think that should be the cue for universities to go ahead and just be like, we're fixing this. You don't get to see it. Sucks for you. And there needs to be more proactive stuff in the moment as well as in the future.
Yeah, definitely. Gosh, it's really interesting to hear all the like kind of different stories from your own lived experience, but also from obviously like your podcast and interviewing people. Like there's just so much that people come up against, and it sounds like everyone that's just out there advocating for themselves, like trying their best to make things better for themselves and ultimately for other students as well. But yeah, going back to your podcast briefly, because I haven't really kind of discussed with you like when you kind of started it and how you've kind of sort of built it, and I can tell that you're like really passionate about sharing other people's stories, so be interesting to hear like when you first had the idea for it and how you've kind of built it.
I think I got the idea for it a day or so after failing my master's. I ended up working as a cleaner for a few weeks just to kill the time, essentially, before I'd moved out of Oxford. And I think one day I was walking home and it was like through this lovely park, and I was thinking, like, what could I do? I could make a podcast where I share a bunch of people's stories, because these aren't normally the things that make it out. They kind of get stuck in their own echo chambers and people don't share them.
Massively, yeah.
Massively. And it's incredibly isolating, not just for the person who, you know, might come on and share their story, but also for people listening, because it's not that what happens is necessarily common. I hope it isn't. But in those edge cases, you want to know that someone's been through it before, because it can just feel horribly isolating, especially if there's institutional failures on top of whatever you're going through. It can just make you feel incredibly small. And that's what I wanted to mitigate. And I wanted to make sure that there was a platform that wasn't attached to a university. If it was ever sponsored by a university, you know, they get no say in what I do. And to make sure that there is not that institutions don't necessarily have freedom of speech. I know it's debated in the sector right now, but to not feel, I don't want people to share their stories feeling any kind of institutional pressure. Like it's like if I went back to York and went, yeah, that was terrible.
Yeah.
You know, like I love York the uni, but like that experience was bad.
Yeah.
You know, they might not be as appreciative as if you come on an independent podcast and you have a platform there where you're not the first. Usually, you probably won't be the last. And I try and make it kind of as safe a space as possible for people to come and share their stories.
You put it like so well, but you're right in the kind of isolation of it all, and feeling like you're the only person going through it, and that you're in a constant fight with the university you're at to just get somewhere and be seen. And I do love that about your podcast, is that, yeah, there's other people. It's rubbish that they weren't the first and they weren't the last for it to happen to, but it's somewhat comforting to hear other people are also struggling to go through the same things that you've been through as well, even though it's like disheartening to hear.
Yeah, on the other hand though, it's also really lovely. I have some guests and I'm like, did you have any obstacles? And they're like, I mean, kind of. I'm like, I'm jealous. Like, I you know, yeah, it's really nice. I've been able to hear those positive experiences as well. Like, I want people to share their experiences. You know, I don't put up like a big poster coming in, like, you know, come here and slag off your uni. Like, like, that's not what I'm doing. And so sometimes I have some really genuinely lovely people like, yeah, I got all the support I need. I had a wonderful time. You know, I still struggled here and there, learning myself and my condition as you do. But for the most part, it was all right. And I got all the support I needed from my institution. And I'm like, whoa, that's great.
More of this, please.
Please, yeah.
Well, that is good.
Yeah, because especially, so as we record this, it's the 28th of January. And this is important because the 2025 Disabled Students survey is releasing, I believe, the launch is tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And I can say this because this is coming out in February. I, at this point, did the release episode for that report with Disabled Students UK as a formal collaboration.
Oh, okay.
They sponsored the episode. It's amazing.
Oh, cool.
But I got early access to that report. And I won't go into depth because I think I'm still embargoed.
I was just going to say, what can you say?
It's all good. You'll be able to read it like tomorrow. It might already be out, but
I'll try and link it as well.
Yeah, it's really, really interesting. I read a draft. I don't think it'll be much different. Okay. Some experiences are improving, if marginally. Others still have a really long way to go, especially with, I'll be as vague as possible, but like attendance and some attitudes from staff and even getting enough responses. Some unis weren't listed at all on the rankings because I don't think they had enough respondents to be statistically significant.
Okay, right.
And it's, on the one hand, I've got this really cool lived experience and there's evidence that good things are happening to some students, especially at institutions that are really on it. Like, I don't think I'm breaking embargo if I say that, because they share it all the time anyway. London South Bank University is generally like that. I mean, one of their higher ups is on the launch panel tomorrow, so you'd kind of expect them to be on it. I don't think I don't think I'm breaking any embargoes by saying that, but like finding that kind of institution that's really on it. But then on the other hand, there are some institutions that are not, and it's reading that report was very much like, we need to look at what we can do now, because clearly these good experiences aren't necessarily the norm, especially where the university isn't really on it. Frustrating.
Interesting, frustrating all at the same time.
We have good examples of what that can look like now, I feel like, and we're starting, as there's more awareness of it, we can start to take good practice from other institutions. Hopefully it's cost effective, who knows.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, funding again.
It's always funding.
So I was going to ask you as well, like, obviously you're doing kind of a lot in the sort of disability sort of advocacy space, and I'd be interested to know, like, how do you juggle all your work, and like how do you work best, like with time management and ADHD? Like, how do you juggle all the things?
Oh god, this is a rabbit hole. It depends. I'm coming out of a period. I had a big crash, so I graduated in July. I probably until December, January, I was essentially a slug and just doing the bare minimum to get things out each week because I was exhausted. I'd worked a job at a school that wasn't treating me very well sensory wise for a year.
Okay.
The kind of like change your timetable the day before or the day you arrive to work, and then be like, oh, but it'll be different tomorrow, or we'll try not to do it again, and then do that for 5 weeks, 3 weeks. So I was recovering from that. I was recovering from Oxford, and nowadays it's much better. I'm trying stimulants again, but I don't sleep, so for the most part I'm kind of just raw dogging my brain is the best way I can describe it. Like, there's no medication, coffee. The one thing I try not to do is keep myself to time blocks unless I have a recording where you have to be there.
Yeah.
If I don't have a time to keep myself accountable to something, I am as kind to myself as I can be, and I try and not work a conventional work day as much as my energy levels allow. It might be that, especially because I can get mentally fatigued quite quickly, I might work fewer hours in a day. But when I do, I'm like as focused as I can be. Recently, I downloaded a game on Steam, actually, called Chill With You Lo-Fi Story, which is a body doubling game for work. And it's amazing because it's got the most versatile Pomodoro timers I've ever seen.
Okay, that's cool.
You can set whatever break time, whatever work time, however many cycles of that block you would like.
Okay.
And it's got like a cute narrative and customization options. And you get points and leveling up from working.
We love gamification of...
It's like good gamification as well. And because I never gelled with... I don't necessarily gel with fully digital workflows because sometimes I just want to write in a diary or in a bullet journal.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to mess about with getting the workflow right or sit on a screen where I could procrastinate when I'm already tired and mentally exhausted and just want to get things down. But also if I'm already on my computer and I have things to do, it's great and it forces me to take breaks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Self-compassion, force yourself to take breaks, and Also, actual rest is the biggest advice, biggest thing I do to juggle everything.
It's tricky to rest, isn't it?
I had a reputation in my masters of forcing people to drink water and sit down. Like I have a sticker on my laptop that says "Stay hydrated. This is a threat," with a raccoon holding a water bottle. And the reason that kept happening is I'm going to say this: postgraduate linguists, especially at Oxford, where it's very formal, mostly neurodivergent.
Excellent.
It's the kind of subject where you find your special interest and you deep dive into it for the rest of your life, or at least for a few years.
Incredible. Yeah.
And as a result, some of them be like, oh, I've stayed up reading. I'm like, have you had water today? Like, no. I'm like, well, you should do that, buddy. But at the same time, they'd be getting really stressed about these deadlines. And, one person in particular. And I was just like, respectfully, I can see you're working very hard and you're very stressed about this. Are you resting, or are you just worrying about your work while thinking that this is rest? Like, is this true? I'm taking some time away and like doing something rest? Or is this I'm thinking about my work? Oh my God, I should be doing my work. Especially when, again, a lot of them are neurodivergent, have executive dysfunction, myself included. And trying to battle that as opposed to actually taking meaningful rest. And normally you would see they'd be like, oh wait, actually I've been fighting myself all day about what rest is.
Yeah. I feel and I've always felt so strongly about people that do all-nighters. I never did an all-nighter at uni or have ever done an all-nighter because I just don't think it's healthy, or like I could work my best at the time. I know that some people do, and that's absolutely fine. But I think you're right in that you've got to stop at some point, and you've got to we've got basic human needs that we need to think about. And I just feel like the overnighter kind of, I don't know. I just feel like it has this reputation for being like, I'm working really hard, I'm doing like an all-nighter, and I'm like, but how much like good work are you doing in that time? I don't know how you feel about it.
It gives me very big like gaslight gatekeep girl boss vibes, where like you kind of just lock yourself into this very, I'm going to say, like, unless you're managing it properly and either it's rare or you're being very intentional about it, it's normally quite toxic. Sometimes you have to pull an all-nighter. Like, I've had executive dysfunction out the wazoo, and I also sometimes work best in the evenings. I accidentally stay up till 6 a.m. I've done that.
Amazing.
I'll balance this argument. I've pulled about 5 through my university career. Don't usually recommend it, especially if you have places to be the next day, but also, if you're not going on nights out, you've got to find something to do. But it's more that you don't want to perpetuate hustle culture.
Yeah, and it sounds like you're doing it, okay, when you might kind of need to, or you're near a deadline kind of thing, but it's the people that are like regularly doing it week on week. I'm like, how are you sustaining that? Like, yeah.
Some people find a lot of comfort in their work, but I think there's a very fine line between overdoing something because it's your passion, which sometimes people just do.
Yeah.
And inadvertently kind of perpetuating a hustle culture that shouldn't exist in the first place. Agreed. It's just horrible and toxic. It's this little gangly bit from capitalism that we all kind of need to cut off. And just, it's not healthy. I think that it's important not to normalize it. I think it can, but normally sometimes, that's people who are, in my opinion, sometimes struggling to manage neurodivergence they don't know they have.
Yeah, I can understand as well that when people get hyper-focused on things, a bit like you said, you can work till like 6 a.m. and not really feel that time pass necessarily. Like, I get that there's definitely different types.
The bigger role, though, I think, is time blindness, where you have no concept of it, like, oh my God, it's due tomorrow. Run quick to the library.
To the library. Yeah.
If your library's 24 hours, if not, I think if you're going to do it, though, just make sure you have lots of water. Make sure you still try and take care of the rest of your needs. Don't shove your face with sugar and then have a massive crash. That's a bad idea.
Mhm.
Like, if you're going to do it, at least be smart. Like, if you have to pull an all-nighter, don't do it because you're trying to brag. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not proving anything to anyone at 4 o'clock in the morning at the library. Like,
Exactly. And just think of the raccoon, people. Like, it wants you to drink and stay hydrated.
electrolytes as well. Especially if you're on stimulants, like, you need that extra level of hydration to keep yourself going. Stimulants, do some exercise, go for a walk. I beg, take screen breaks. Like,
Oh my God,
there are things you can do. There are
Yeah,
things you can do.
Even just like looking away. Don't they say like look away from your screen every like 20 minutes or something at least or something?
It's the 20-20-20. Is it something? 20.
Yeah.
Look away from your screen for 20 seconds. After you've been on it for 20 minutes, it's something 20 meters away.
Right.
I think.
That sounds about right.
What do I know? I'm just a podcast
I'll
host.
Google it. I'll Google it and put it in the show notes.
Tune into the HE Enable podcast where we will uncover
Yeah.
how
Is
far
it that?
away.
Yeah. Oh, I
We
like
do
that.
science.
Cliffhanger. So my last question is
Go for it.
hobbies and special interests. Do you have any / do you have time for any?
I have the attention span of a sparrow, and my special interests change accordingly.
Excellent.
Some things my biggest special interest growing up was retro video games. I was a massive,
Nice.
I have massive collector. I have like an Atari 2600 from the 70s, the ET, if that means anything to anyone. I kind of fell off after the Wii and the consoles I grew up with. But sometimes I picked up a box copy of Tetris for the NES recently. I don't really buy much anymore, but I have the odd bit. People think I have a dinosaur special interest. Couldn't really name them, but I get a lot of dinosaur stuff. Other than that, do some needle felting, built some Lego yesterday.
Nice.
My partner got me a Rubik's, like a GameCube, which is like bougie Rubik's Cube for Christmas.
Ooh.
Figured I'd solve it in about 4 days. I did it in about 2 hours. So now if I have some time to kill, I'll just do some cubing.
Wow.
Not
Is it
quickly.
Is it like a speed cube, the ones that like move really fast, or is it
The cube is the speed. The cube is a speed cube. I do not use it for speed.
right?
And I've also been getting back into reading fiction again. I think after everything that happened at uni, academic reading and academic writing, especially when you're so burned out, you can't really retain anything. It became very intimidating to me. So it meant a lot to just get back into reading something.
Yeah.
So I'm currently on like my 4th book of the year, which is very unlike me,
Wow.
even with an English degree. And I've just been diving into shorter fiction, trying to find reading less intimidating again. Other than that, yeah, just advocacy, networking. I enjoy the podcast stuff. Audio editing's a bit tiresome, but it sounds all right.
I was going to say we haven't even talked about like just the logistics of running a podcast, and it's like once you're recorded, you're like, and now the work begins.
In a way, I think if you have the systems that work, it makes it a lot easier. Like I have, as part of like my move to working and like from home and freelancing on the show and taking some time away from like formal employment, I've ended up like curating a really nice desk. So ergonomically editing my show is now really nice.
Okay.
But also it's like 4 hours to edit an episode. Like, yeah, it can get tiresome, but once you have the system that works, especially like with accessibility to the show, and I got rid of everything that was nagging. Like I built recording guidance, I had questions I could send to people, I had a really easy way to put in adjustments. Once the fundamentals are sorted out and I know that I have to get an episode out every Sunday, potentially 2 if I'm uploading to Patreon.
Yeah,
then
that's wow. Do you do them weekly?
Yeah.
Wow. That is, I mean, I used to do them every 2 weeks and now I do them monthly, and even that is a push. So You're doing really well.
You're a much busier person than me, to be fair. I've seen your portfolio. But also, like, I find it sometimes if you have... I struggle with stuff that's consistent over a longer period of time. It's good for me to have things that are short and consistent and in front of me.
Yeah.
Obviously, my aim is still that I'm recording as much as I can in January and February, partly so I can get episodes up on the Patreon, because I only upload episodes to Patreon if I have a backlog.
Right.
So if I'm like, hey, you know, this episode's coming out this week, but I have this one up my sleeve for £1 a month, I'll chuck it your way. You know, I want you to be able to hear it. But it means that I want to have episodes pre-recorded. It's good, and it's that means at some point you end up with a bunch of editing at once, and it's just balancing that. Yeah. Excellent. You better enjoy audio editing, guys. You know what a gate is? Got a limiter, a compressor, got some EQ. It's great.
Cath knows way more than I do about this sort of stuff. So
my partner has 2 degrees in audio. So
okay, you're living with the right person.
I'm living with the right person. I genuinely could not have got better tech recommendations and audio advice and photography advice.
Excellent.
Shout out to
Cath. Yeah,
absolutely.
So where can people find you on the internet? Where can they find your podcast? Feel free to promote everything and anything.
HE Enabled, I've tried to chuck it everywhere. It's the joy of an RSS feed. So HE Enabled is available wherever you get your podcasts. I mainly host through Spotify, so if you want to boost my stats there, go ahead. It's available everywhere. I'm sure it'll be linked in the episode description if people want to find it. I'll throw you the link tree my way. If you're interested in supporting the show and helping people share their lived experiences in higher education, I have the Patreon. It's literally £1 a month, £12 a year. Money goes back into the show. It means I can host a website, for example. I'm not making any wild expenditure. And otherwise, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky are my 3 main ones. LinkedIn's my mainly because I don't have social media installed on my phone, but LinkedIn has the games, and that's how I balance it.
Nice. So
LinkedIn's technically the only social media I have on my phone. Right. I promise I'm not that kind of LinkedIn person, but those 3 are my main, and you can find me there all at HE Enabled. Don't think there's anything else using my name right now. I should also have a website soon as well, because now that I'm getting sponsored episodes, I can afford to actually run things, because I'm already having to live off my savings at the moment to take some time away. I didn't want to spend it on having to set everything up as well, but now I'm getting some sponsorships across. I can start building out websites and things
exciting.
Like that. It's very exciting.
Really good.
So coming soon.
Also, maybe when you do have it, I'll put it in the show notes as well for people to check out. But I was also going to say as well, if people want to rate podcasts, they can. Because I think you can do star ratings on Spotify and Apple Podcasts without writing a review. I find it's quite good to push that, because I feel like it kind of shows the podcast platforms that you're getting some engagement. So can everyone give our podcasts 5 stars, please?
I'll do yours now.
Thanks. I've done yours. I listened to your first episode and then I was like, right. 5 stars.
I knew the questions were familiar. Yeah, you got 42 reviews, 5 stars. My goodness.
Oh, thanks, everyone.
We're both at a solid 5. We'll take that.
So just keep doing that, people. Keep rating and reviewing. It's like and subscribe, isn't it? But podcast.
It really is. If you want to write an actual review, I'll plaster it on my forehead.
Oh my god!
Feel free. If it's not too mean, I'll plaster it on my forehead.
Yeah. Dependent on content.
1 star, terrible.
Yeah.
Oh my god, a review. But I guess we'll just plug as well that we're recording for our podcast back to back, so you're going to be on mine in a few weeks. We'll have a race on who's come out first, because I know they're both in February. I think yours is the 8th I have you down for.
Oh, okay. So mine will be, I guess, because my this one will be live at the end of February. So I think, yeah, you'll beat me to posting.
In which point, your episode will be a few weeks, behind the newest one, but it will be there. So go check it out.
Thank you so much for coming on. I really, really appreciate your time, and yeah, it's been so interesting to hear a bit about your background. And yeah, I hope the podcast continues to do well and you get many sponsorships.
I hope so too. I'd like to pay my bills. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun doing. It's the first podcast that I've actually done as a guest since starting HE Enabled. It's been really, really fun. I was a bit of a downer, but hopefully that was more, for everyone listening, I hope that was more painting a picture of what everything was like, because that can overshadow the positives a lot.
Yeah.
And you kind of have to get past the context before you can be like, oh, actually it was really nice. But if you're still here, thank you for sticking with it, and I hope that it was still informative regardless.